Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. In today's video I will be testing out some of my new pigments and paints to make a beautiful vanity set, including a tray, a lotion dispenser and a pot. So stay tuned to see the creation process and don't forget to watch till the end if you want to see everything in detail. All three of the pieces you'll see me make today have the same ingredients, and they are the gold leaf flakes, some Sahara blue interference powder, that's the one that looks white but it's a blue interference powder, and then the Sahara blue-green pigment powder. I call it teal but its name is green-blue, I think, on the website. And then I'm using the Galaxy Starlight Glitter, which is from the same place. They're all from Resin Pro, apart from the gold leaf. And that complements the teal mica powder really well. So this silicone soap dispenser mould is my new favourite mould. I really love it, and it's from Amazon, and I'll put a link to it in the description. The resin I'm using today for this one is the iCRYSTAL 5. It's a deep casting resin because I was thinking, because it's kind of a deep mould, I'll need a deep casting resin, but you'll find out later on that I really didn't. The iCRYSTAL 5 is supposed to have a maximum depth of 5 centimetres, hence the name iCRYSTAL 5. But it's not really quite as straightforward as that, because if it was one solid block of resin I was pouring, yes, it would need to be a maximum of 5 centimetres depth. But the walls of this mould are only about 1 centimetre. And so it's not such a dense amount of resin, and you can get away with using, a deeper pour because it's not going to overheat, because there's not quite as much resin as there would be if it was a solid piece. I hope I'm making sense. So anyway, what you've just seen me do is pour in some resin mixed with the teal mica powder and some of the teal Galaxy Starlight glitter. And then after that, I just poured in some straight teal. And then after that, I poured in the interference blue mica powder mixture, which is what you can see now. And it I was hoping the colours would kind of stay quite separate. But because I used a deep casting resins are very slow to cure. It took 2 days. And and that's so that all the bubbles can come out really well. The only thing is, when it's so thin and so slow to cure, the colours have a lot longer to mingle together. So that, they didn't stay separate like I wanted to. But you live and you learn, don't you? And I did like the end result. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So on this lid, it's got kind of a bit that the air gets trapped in, just under the ridge there. And so I'm just using a micro brush in there to just get rid of any air bubbles that have been trapped, because that is the place. If there's going to be air, it's going to be there. So once I'd got rid of the air bubbles, I continued to fill everything up, just alternating the different colours that I'd mixed. After 2 days, it was ready to demould, and it took a little while to get it started. With these moulds, you kind of need 5 hands to hold each side down, but once it started, you just peel it off and it comes off really easily. The top actually fits to the base quite snugly, but I did decide to glue it anyway, just to make sure it was nice and secure and that the pump would work in the dispenser. So I'm using some E6000 glue just around the edge to keep it in place, and then I know it's not going to stop working on me. I'm just using a wooden stick here, and I don't know if you can see, it's quite hard to see it in the light that I've got here, but it's got like a tab. Do you see there? I'm pointing to it. It has a tab on it, and that tab fits into a corresponding hole in the base, which I will show you in a second as well. And there it is, look. So that helps it to fit together really well. So once the glue was on, I was ready to just put the lid on, and you can see how it looks. What do you think? I'm really pleased with it actually. I love the teal colour, and although it wasn't what I was expecting, I think the interference blue has worked really nicely with the teal, and yeah, I really like it. It's going to go really well with the tray that you're going to see soon. So the pump comes with the mould. It comes with a gold pump and a silver one, and the tube that fits on, and I used my scissors just to chop it down to size, and then it simply screws on. And of course the lotion will just pour into the inner section through the hole that's left for the pump. Just pour it through there. It would obviously be easier to pour it in if I hadn't glued that other part on, but I just wanted it to be glued together, and it will be fine pouring it through that hole. Okay, onto the tray. I mixed up exactly the same colours as before. The only difference this time is I used epoxy transparent resin from Resin Pro, and that's a maximum depth of 2 centimetres, so it's a different one and it's faster curing. And another difference is this time I mixed too much. I mixed way too much, but that's okay because that ended up being a good thing because I made several other things as well, which you will see. So I mixed the gold leaf into the resin, and as you mix it up, it separates into all those little bits. And I did plenty, as you can see, there's loads of gold in there. And then I'm just doing a thin strip of the teal with some of the Galaxy Starlight glitter in again. And then it will be a layer of the teal without the glitter in. Oh, and by the way, the pigments and the resins and this tray mould are all from Resin Pro. So I will put a discount code in the description for you in case you would like to get some of that for yourself. Next in was the interference blue, and I really do love this pigment. I think the interference pigments are probably my favourites now, and I've got some others to try. I ordered all the ones that they have at Resin Pro. I think there's 4 or 5 different colours, and I can't wait to try the others. So in it goes. I'm just pouring it straight in, and time does the magic. It's great with resin because a lot of the time you don't really need to do anything apart from pour it in, because just leaving it, as you leave it, all sorts of magical things happen, and you come back and sometimes you think, is that really what I just poured? Is it the same thing? But it is. It just does all kind of magic as you turn your back, and it's got a mind of its own, which is, I think, is why I love it so much. It's very unpredictable. Once all the resin was poured in, I used my kitchen torch on its very lowest setting. You can't even see the flame, I don't think. It's so low because I didn't want to overheat the resin or damage the mould. So be very careful using torches or, flames, lighters, heat guns, whatever. They can damage the mould. Just do it very quickly. And all it does, if you're new to resin and you don't know, it just bursts any little micro bubbles that are in there. So once everything was in, I had a little bit of a faff around with it just to make sure that there was enough resin in and that I was happy with it, and I tweaked it a little bit. Like you do, it's good to have a little faff around and perfect it at the end. And then it was ready to leave, and I think I left it for about, I think it was about 6 hours before demoulding. For the edges of the tray, I wanted to paint them gold, and I had some new paints from Resin Pro called Porporina, and it's the pale gold golden leaf paint, and I really love it. They have all different shades. I think I got 6 bottles of different shades. I was dying to try them out, and I love it. I really do love it, but it wasn't the quickest thing to use. If you want quick results, stick to using gold pens, definitely. But if you want a really beautiful result and you're not too worried about how long it takes, I would highly recommend this paint. Whenever I'm doing gold edges, I've found that if you use a black marker pen to make the edges black first, you get a much better base for the gold and it shows up far better, especially if your piece of resin has been made with pale colours. It's much better to put that black marker pen on there before adding the gold. It just takes out a lot of work and you get much brighter results. So I used the marker pen off camera and got that done, and here I'm just adding the gold paint very carefully, and that's it really. Then you just need to leave it stood up like that because it's quite thin and you don't want it to drip, and I did do 2 coats of it. It will probably ruin your brush as well. You can clean your brush, but it will never be quite the same afterwards. I clean my brush in alcohol. So there it is with the edges all painted, and if you see that tray holder in the background, that's what the tray is going to go into, and that comes with the mould. Right, as I said before, I mixed up way too much resin for the tray, and I thought it would be really good to make a pot to go on the tray next to the soap dispenser, and I thought, yeah, it'd be good for cotton wool or something. The only thing was that for the tray and, you know, the resin which I mixed up too much of, it wasn't the deep casting resin, it was the transparent resin, which is I think a maximum of 2 centimetre depth. So this was a gamble. I wasn't sure if it would overheat, but I was hoping it wouldn't because, as with the soap dispenser, the walls of the pot are thin, so it's not a dense chunk of resin. So, yeah, it was a gamble, and actually it worked. So I learned something from that. I learned that you can use the Resin Pro transparent resin much deeper than 2 centimetres, as long as it's just something like this where it's thin walls and not a big dense blob of resin. Right, so I did this one in just the same way that I did the soap dispenser at the beginning, but as I've already said, I used a different resin, and this was a much quicker curing resin, and it didn't have quite as much time for all the colours to mingle together. So the results are different, and it's interesting to compare the two things to see the difference of the 2 resins with exactly the same colours in, you know, just to see how the colours change when it's a really slow curing resin. So yeah, hopefully you can see that there's a much more apparent separation between the 2 colours in this one. I really liked how this pot turned out, but the only thing I would do differently next time is I wouldn't put gold leaf in the lid because it did all sink to the bottom and it kind of distracted the eye from the pattern that the textured pattern from the mould that you would have got on the top. I love the underside of that lid. It's my favourite part of it, and it's the bit you don't see. I love how it's pillowed, but look, see how all the gold leaf went to the top of the mould. Yeah, it's a shame about that, but other than that, I like it, and I think it completes the set really nicely. And there you can see I've used exactly the same colours, but different resins, one slow curing and one much faster. I didn't show you the process of making these coasters because I did a different video with them. a separate video for them, but it was all part of the same thing. It was all using the same leftover resin, so I thought I'd leave this bit in just to show you the results of something else which I made with that leftover resin, and I really loved those. So if you would like to see the tutorial for those, I will put the link in the description. So now everything's finished and it's time to look at them all together. I always find that you get a much more realistic view of what something looks like in photographs. You can't really see the details so well here, but in a second you will see some photographs of everything and it's much better to see the detail. But anyway, there it is in its holder with the lotion dispenser and the pot. So we've come to the end of the video. I hope you found it interesting, and if you would like to purchase anything you've seen me use today, as always the links will be in the description along with my Resin Pro discount code. Thank you for watching and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.